Nobody's good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get it together. You know her from Star Trek: The Next Generation. Ladies and gentlemen, Marina Sirtis.
Down when they talk to you. Who? Do you want to come, people at the back? Come forward, come on. Come on, don't be back there, I can't see you. Come to the expensive seats in the front. Come on, no one's sitting in them. You're too spread out, I just feel like there's no one here. Okay. Come on, be quick about it, I haven't got all day, come on. They're sauntering down. So how you all doing? Yes, good. It's been a good Marina week on television this week. I didn't even realize, but there's been a bunch of reruns on, and my Diagnosis Murder was on, and my Stargate was on, and so, what is it with you people? Oi, you, come down here. Is this a good view for you guys in the middle there? Okay, all right, so you can stay there. So, well, thanks for coming out to a new venue for this particular convention this year, because we're usually in Springfield, which is where my husband was born. Yeah. Yes, I know, clap, clap, clap. He's never been back since he was born. But he always makes me get him a t-shirt, so he's got Springfield. I have to get him another t-shirt now that says Massachusetts, but I can't seem to find one that just says Massachusetts without Boston on it. I'm not gonna wear a Boston t-shirt in LA. It's not gonna happen. I know there's no rivalry now, but I remember the 90s with, you know, Larry Bird and Magic Johnson. Not gonna happen. So I'll try and find him one. Or I can get him a Harvard t-shirt and pretend that he's smart. Thank God he never comes with me to conventions. Okay, who's never seen me before? It can happen. There are 10 people who have never seen me before, who've been living in a cave for the last 15 years and haven't come out, because it's hard not to see me, because I'm ubiquitous, which means I'm everywhere for the people. Little English lesson thrown in. Okay, let me try and narrow this down, because I don't want to repeat myself too much. Where's Dory? Dory, of course, has heard all the stories before a million times, and she still comes, bless her heart, so I have to ignore Dory. Who's seen me within the last, who hasn't seen me within the last 5 years? Good Lord, I don't have that much new material. You all have seen me. Okay, well, you know what? Okay, let me tell you quickly what everyone's been up to, and then I'll quickly go on to the Q&A, and we'll try and do some new stuff that way. Okay, I just finished a movie last week called Crash, and it's about race relations in Los Angeles. It's a pretty great cast. Sandra Bullock, Brendan Fraser, Matt Dillon, Tandy Newton, Don Cheadle, and me. I have a very tiny part in this movie. I play an Iranian shopkeeper's wife of it's an Iranian guy who's a convenience store owner. And I wear the full scarf and baggy, ugly clothes and flat shoes. I've never worn flat shoes in my life and no makeup. I said to the makeup artist, this is the first time I've ever acted without mascara. And it was really interesting because I have to speak, well, they wanted me to speak Farsi, which is, you know, Iranian. But I was acting with two real Iranians. So I was like, well, they're obviously going to sound like they're real Iranians, and I'm not. So I just did an accent, and they were okay with that. So I did this Iranian accent. But when I was on the set for 2 days, I only worked for 2 days, I was invisible. it was so interesting because I'm wearing these ugly clothes and the headscarf and, you know, no makeup and I look like crap. I was invisible to the guys. And I don't want to be big-headed, but I'm not usually invisible to the guys, right? So even if I'd have no makeup on, I have breasts. So it's like, you know, you can look like crap from the neck up. If you have breasts, guys notice you, right? So, but they couldn't see my breasts because I was wearing baggy clothes, so as I said. And then on my second day, I was supposed to be finished at lunchtime, and the director decided he wanted to put me in another scene, so I stayed. And I was finishing up around 5:30, middle of the rush hour, and I had to drive, you know, 30 miles back home. So I figured out that I wasn't going to be seen in the last shot, so I went and put my regular clothes on, jeans and a t-shirt. It was like, I walked on the set, it was like, hi, how are you? You know, it was like suddenly they saw me and I was like, you know, guys are pathetic. Aren't they? Aren't they pathetic? Sorry guys, you're pathetic, because it was like, I mean, I still had no mascara on, but I had breasts. Yeah, so it didn't matter. Anyway, so I just finished that. Brent, I don't know if you saw Brent, he just did, he's got a movie coming out, I don't know when it's gonna come out. He's in The Aviator with Leonardo DiCaprio, directed by Martin Scorsese. He was just in Law and Order Criminal Intent, and he just did an episode of Friends. Did you see that? No, you just watched sci-fi, okay. And LeVar is directing. LeVar directed this wonderful movie called Blizzard, and it's going to be out at Christmas. I think it's going to be one of those classic Christmas movies. I saw it last year. It's brilliant. It's a kids' movie, and generally I don't like kids' movies, but I loved this movie. And I'm not just saying that because it was LeVar. I went to see the movie with Michael Dorn, and we both thought it was just classic. So Whoopi does, it's about a reindeer called Blizzard, and his friendship with a little girl who's an ice skater, and Whoopi does the voice of Blizzard. So it's really good. You have to see it when it comes out. Jonathan, of course, is in London directing Thunderbirds. Thunderbirds are go, yeah. So excited. You know, finally, he will be able to employ me, because Jonathan would always, because, you know, Jonathan and I are really good friends, and Jonathan would always say to me, you know, I don't worry, Marina, I'm going to hire you one day. And I would say, Jonathan, you got to hire wife number one first. Because, you know, he's married to Jeannie Francis. And I said, if you don't hire her first, she's going to kill both of us. So he has hired her. She's in Thunderbirds. So finally, my friend is going to give me a job at some point. Michael Dorn is, he's in a pilot. He's shooting a pilot about a school for gifted children, and he's playing the principal of the school. And I don't know if it's a recurring role in the pilot or whether it's just a one-off, but he's doing that. And who else is there? Gates. Gates has been doing a lot of theater and going to France, because she has a house in France. So that's what she does. And who else? Patrick, oh, of course. Old Baldy. Yes, old Baldy has moved back to England. And within a month of moving back, because Brent and LeVar were just over there at a convention, he has become totally English again. They said they didn't understand a word he was saying, because he was like, oh yes, we had a couple of bickies with our tea. And they're like, what are you talking about, you know? So he's just reverted back. He's not, I don't think he's got a job right now, but they have made him a fellow of Huddersfield University. He's from a town close to Huddersfield in the north of England, and they've made him a fellow, which is kind of like, I don't know what the equivalent would be here, what the name is, but he's gonna guest lecture and, you know, do a lot of stuff for the university, and he's really excited about that, because of course he didn't finish high school, so the fact that he's involved with any kind of university is huge. I know he sounds like he's educated, but really he's not. It's lucky they're not all here, and I'm being videotaped. I'm really in trouble. Okay, I'll have to kill you later. That's it. I think that's the whole cast, isn't it? Basically. What? Oh, I don't. Oh, you know, Will is really involved in like website stuff, which I know nothing about, because you know, really, I can't type. I'm just Dory. I'm learning how to type. It's hard with the little finger, though. You know, I've got this. Dory is one of my fans who have joined my website, and so she knows the trouble I have, like going on because I can't type. It takes me like a half an hour to type one sentence. So I'm trying to learn how to type for my fans. It's for my fans. God damn. But Will, of course, is, you know, really... Actually, right now, I am being kicked off my own website. I think I let somebody in. When I go to marinasirtis.tv, something Chinese comes on the screen, which can't be right, I'm thinking. So I have to go to eMediaStar and then get on my website through eMediaStar.
Well, no, I had trouble getting on a couple of days ago.
You did? Did you get something Chinese too?
No, just a blank screen.
Oh. What? Really? Well, mine, yeah, because I got a laptop because my PC was playing up, and the laptop's gone weird now. God, I don't know. God damn it. I just want to, like, you know, when you can talk to the computer and it answers back in Majel's voice, then I'll be happy, you know? Okay. Anyway, for any of you guys who are interested in the website, marinasirtis.tv, okay? It's pretty easy. You can go on there. And you don't have to pay to join. There are free pages, whatever they're called, you know, things. And you can just go talk to other fans, okay, about me. Be nice, because some of them are really not nice. You go to the general pages. I mean, I do go there occasionally, and they're mean. And it's my website. It's like, why are you being mean about me? You know, I love it when they critique my acting. You know, she was really crappy in this, but now she's much better, and, you know, you're like, when did they become Roger Ebert? You know, it's like, it's bad enough we have to deal with the critics critiquing our work, and now the fans are, like, going in there, and did she look fat? Has she had a boob job? I mean, this whole thing, you know, it's just, it's true, isn't it true? Yeah. I know, I should, like, say, come and feel my breasts. Get down. I try to explain to my fans that after a certain age, you have to start wearing a padded bra, girls, don't we? And, you know, there's just, you know, I don't know, anyway. Okay, we'll do questions. The boys are like, oh my God, what is she talking about? Okay, let's do some questions now before I get really off the subject. Okay, way in the back, yes. Oh, you have to come to the, okay, there's a microphone, all right, so that the other 10 people in the room can hear you. It's not on. I think we can hear you if you just shout, like, speak loudly.
I recently found out that early in your career you would audition for the science fiction show Blake 7.
No. That's not true. Okay, do you have anything else? Okay. Which book?
It's a book about the making of Blake 7. They said that you had auditioned for a part in the last season of the show.
No.
Did you ever try out for anything for Doctor Who?
No. Bye. You see, you can't believe everything you read. It's not just the National Enquirer that makes things up. It's books, obviously, yes.
I read some online that you and Patrick Scott in Nemesis,
Wait.
kind of thing, you made it something about a joke and said he called you a waste of space.
Oh, no, that wasn't in Nemesis. That was years ago, and we didn't really have a fight. It was one day, this gentleman was saying that he had read somewhere that Patrick and I had a falling out on Nemesis. No, what happened I can't even remember. It was way when we were doing the series. And Patrick was obviously, you know, in not a great mood one day. And I had one of my, you know, wonderful Troy lines. I said in the scene, "Captain, he's hiding something." And Patrick said, "We know that, you stupid cow. You waste of space." And then he looked at me and he went and hid behind Brent. So I walked over to him and I said, "Excuse me, Your Majesty, but you know, Brent doesn't really have superhuman strength, you idiot." So, no, we didn't really have a falling. Actually, there's something really, how many children do we have here? Any kids? Put your hands up. No kids. Okay, all right, one kid, all right. So I'll keep it clean. So remember in Nemesis, when we first go into Shinzon's, you know, big cavernous room thing, and the doors open and we walk in? Well, we're standing outside those doors waiting to go in. And we were all feeling a bit silly that day, which was normal. And Patrick goes, "I know. I think Marina should sleep with all of us." Then I looked, and there's like Michael Dorn, Brent, Jonathan, and Patrick. And I'm like, okay. But I want good gifts. I want blue boxes with Tiffany on them. And yeah, no crap, no flowers, really good gifts. Yeah, forget the chocolate, yeah, no chocolate. So boys were just laughing. Then the doors opened and we're all like laughing and Stuart Baird is like freaking out. So, excuse me, I just noticed, Mr. with the blue hat, I don't allow videotaping. Oh yeah, okay, fine. You know why? Because I've just said 3 things already that would get me in trouble with my fellow thespians. And I don't want any proof that I said them. It'll just be my word against yours. Right. So Stuart, he was an interesting piece of work, our Stuart Baird. I met him at a party after we finished shooting the movie, and let's just say Stuart and I didn't hit it off from day, like, we started off on the wrong foot. The first day I'm filming on Nemesis, the first scene is me in the turbo lift with shins on, which is the scene that was cut out of the movie. Has the DVD come out yet? Yes. Is it on the DVD? Yes. Okay. So, not that they ever send us a DVD, they expect us to go out and buy it like the rest of the people. So, I go in to rehearse the scene, and I'm standing with Tom Hardy, and Stuart goes, "Okay, Marina, can you take your shoes off?" And I'm like, okay, all right. Well, Tom's not real tall. He's like 5'8" or something. So I take my shoes off, thinking, obviously, for the camera angle, they need me to be, you know, smaller. So we rehearse the scene. I go off to get ready, and, you know, when I come back, I'm waiting, and I'm thinking, why is it taking so long to light this scene? And I go onto the set, and they're building a platform for me to stand on, which is the same height as the heels that I just took off. So I'm like, excuse me, why exactly are you building a platform? And they're like, well, because we need you to be taller. Well, could I put my shoes back on? And they're like, oh, well, no. I said, look, I'm not going to be, I don't want to act in my slippers. It's hard to be sexy in pink fluffy slippers, you know? I want my shoes on. So I'm like having a little bit of a hissy fit, take the platform away, I'm putting my shoes back on. So that was the first thing. He was like, you know, difficult actresses, you know. That's not a good way to start with the director, obviously. So I do the scene with Tom, and they're shooting it with this little lens, tiny little lens, because the camera is going around the turbo tube to make it like like Shinzon's just appeared in the scene. So we do that shot, and that's fine. And then Stuart goes, okay, Marina, go stand in, we're gonna shoot your close-up. Now, the lens that they had on the camera was what we call a fisheye lens. Makes everyone look distorted, which is okay when they're shooting you from far away, but when they're shooting you from close up, you're gonna look like a grouper. So I said, no, I'm not gonna let you shoot me at my close up with this lens. And he's like, why not? And I said, what? I'm supposed to be the glamour on the show. I'm not supposed to look like a fish. You know, I'm not standing in there. So he just like goes nuts. You know, the air turns blue with the language and he's throwing things and, you know, is like the director walks off the set. Gone. And I'm like, okay then. Let's go get a cup of coffee, you know. So finally he comes back and guess what? They bring a proper lens in and they shoot me with the proper lens for a close-up. And of course, from then on, he like can't stand me. So we didn't really have a great time. And then I ran into him at a party after we finished shooting. And I walk into this party and I'm sitting next to him at the end of the evening. It's July 4th, we're watching fireworks. And he said something like to me, and I was like, is he talking to me? And I said, something about the movie. And I said, I can't remember what I said. And he goes, but you do like me, don't you, Marina? And I was like, yes, Stuart, of course I like you. I think, it's nuts. He was so wrapped up in shooting the movie. I have to, like, just forgive him now because he was so nervous. This was such a huge thing for him to be shooting this movie that really he was just like blinkered. And he had a lot of pressure from the studio who were on his case from the get-go. And we were just on the, you know, it was like, you know, when like you go home, you kick the dog kind of thing. This was like he was getting abuse from above. And so it was all filtering down to us. So I kind of had to let him off the hook, but it just amazed me that he was just so unaware of what people actually thought of him that we couldn't stand him. So anyway, it's all over now. Star Trek's over for us, so it doesn't matter. Okay, next question. I don't know why I even started talking about that. Yes?
One of the things that I really liked about the show was how the characters developed over the years as the show went on. And you've all seen on Nemesis the wedding between Counselor Troy and Commander Riker. And we're not asking for any hints or anything, wink, wink, if there's going to be any future.
There's nothing. It's over.
But if you were to, if there were going to be one, would there be maybe a little baby? And if so, have you two picked out a name?
Well, Jonathan and I always used to talk about the one thing Star Trek that hasn't been made yet. Star Trek the sitcom. Or The Rikers in Space was the other title. And we would be, you know, it would be Will Riker and Deanna Troy Riker and their little dog Worf. But that's really wishful thinking, I think, on our part. But Jonathan, of course, is not really going to be acting too much anymore because he's such a big, you know, I think there would have been a possibility of us, you know, doing something Trek-related together, but he's just too big of a director now. That's the way his career is going, unfortunately for me. But you gotta hand it to him. He really, really, really knew what he wanted and he focused on it and the way to get there. And he should get up and give inspirational talks about how to achieve what you really want in life because he really did it. Next question. Yes.
Before my question, I just want to say something to you. This is the third time I've seen you, and every time press always seems to come into the frame.
Yeah.
The last time you complained about Jerry Ryan and her suit.
Yeah.
Dress and how it was taken away from the character.
I didn't say it was taken away from the character. I just said that mine were real and hers were not. I think. I mean, don't know definitively. I've never touched them, but you know, she's a little skinny to have such big boobs. That's.
I just want to say that I don't think that anybody, when you're acting, they're not looking at breasts.
Really?
When we look at you, we look at the First Lady of Star Trek, and you have a grace and a presence that supersedes your beauty.
Oh, thank you. So I should stop talking about breasts? Is that what you're saying? Okay. All right. I'll try. All right. You know, I can't, in Hollywood, no, right, yeah. In Hollywood, it's a little difficult because they're breast fixated, you know, and I just come from there. So, but I don't know if what you're saying is true because, you know, when I covered up and started wearing my regulation spacesuit, we got a lot of letters from guys, generally, who were like little miffed that, you know, Troy didn't have a cleavage anymore. So, you know, I don't know. But thank you. That was very nice of you to say that. Yes. Oh, you had another question. Okay, sorry. I do a lot of accents, yeah. It's really weird because even though people know that I do accents, it's whenever I go in to just be American, they kind of go, oh yeah, but you're British. You're like, yeah, but I do accents. And they kind of don't buy it. So yeah, I seem to be playing a lot of Middle Eastern parts right now. But that's okay, it's work, you know? And actually, the part that I had in Threat Matrix, who saw Threat Matrix that I was in? See, you are pathetic. You call yourselves real fans. Oh, Marina, we watch everything that you're in. You're just liars. Dory saw it, you know? I was in Threat Matrix. It's been on 3 times. There is no excuse for you not having seen it. Mind you, they didn't put my name in the TV guide, so I might let you off. But in Threat Matrix, I played this really evil person. She actually existed. You know, in the deck of cards from Iraq, she was the Queen of something, Queen of Hearts, Queen of Spades, something like that. And she was one of the scientists in the biological weapons program in Iraq. She did Dr. Germ. I played Dr. Germ. Yeah, you know who she is, right. Well, I played her, but cuter. In Threat Matrix, because she was a bit of a dragon, so I was much cuter. But I was evil. Just not like Demona times 100, right? And that was interesting. I didn't care that I was doing Arabic accent in Arabic, and actually I spoke a little bit of Arabic in there. But I didn't care because it was such a departure for me to play someone that horrible that it was a real, you know, it was good for, I felt it was good for my growth as an actress, so that's why I did it. But yeah, I don't care. You know, work is work, and if I have to do an accent, I'll do an accent. That's fine. Oh, you've had one already. Yes, in the mustache.
I don't have a question about your breasts or...
You don't?
But my question is about what's the consensus amongst the cast members and maybe even among some of the studio personnel as to why Star Trek Nemesis didn't do as well as expected? Do you blame like the marketing of the studio? Is it a creative thing?
No, I tell you why it didn't make. I tell you why. I will tell you why. The studio will probably make up another bunch of lies, but I will tell you why Star Trek Nemesis was not a hit. First of all, they released it 5 days before Lord of the Rings. At Christmas. Stupid. There was so much stuff coming out that, you know, July 4th and all the 4-day weekends are all big movie weekends, obviously. So there's this guy at Paramount who has this great idea to bring the movie out 5 days before Lord of the Rings. Dumbest thing. And you know what? It's like being in the military. He makes a stupid idea, he has a stupid idea, so they promote him. Just to like pretend that he didn't, you know. Anyway, that was the reason. If they had like hung on to the movie till, say, February, when there's nothing coming out, we would have gone blockbusters. So I think it was bad timing, bad marketing. There were no ads, really. There were hardly any ads. I don't know why. They just kind of, I think they just think, oh, the people will go see it anyway. We don't really have to spend any money advertising it, you know, and it just didn't work. So they killed it off. I mean, it's gone. I mean, the reason, but because the last movie had made no money, that's it. The film is a good, I think the film's a good film. I think they're, you know, it's better than Insurrection. I mean, come on, let's be fair. God. I mean, I was watching myself and I fell asleep at the premiere. You know, I was watching my favorite actress and I fell asleep. I was like, you know, I can't snore anymore because I had that surgery. So I can't snore. But apparently it still keeps my husband awake because my breathing is loud. The things you do for your loved ones. Anyway, so, yeah, you know, they're gradually killing off the franchise, and it's a shame. It really is a shame. It's just because they're, you know, greedy. They should, I mean, my opinion is they should let Star Trek just rest for 10 years, let it go, and come back with a bang like they did with us. You know, that would be, I think, the best thing to do, because I think people are just getting trekked out. And, okay, who likes Enterprise before I say anything about it? Oh, you do? Okay, all right, fine. There's no accounting for taste. Fine. You know, the biggest problem with all the shows that came after Next Gen is they didn't have Gene. That's the biggest problem. And not just for the writing and not just for his vision or whatever. Gene Roddenberry cast us. He cast us, and Gene had an eye that I don't think they have anymore over there. You know, because, you know, we were, apart from LeVar, we were all a bunch of unknowns, you know, but he knew, and the original cast, okay, apart from Leonard and Bill, who, you know, got on okay, the rest of them couldn't stand each other, but, well, I mean, they couldn't stand Bill, but, you know, but it didn't, you know, it didn't matter because the chemistry on screen was there, right? Because he cast them, he knew how to cast, and he cast us, and trust me, we did, apart from Michael Dorn, who came in very late, virtually all of us did like 6 auditions. They kept bringing us in and bringing us in and bringing us in, and, you know, to make sure they got it right. I don't know what they do over there now. I mean, I really don't think they have an eye. And I think it's the most important thing when you're making a show is the casting. Unfortunately now in Hollywood, there is a certain lack of respect for actors, that anyone can do it and you don't, you know, it's like, oh, they're just, you know. It's really interesting when you go up on a job, like if you're a guest star, like if I go up to be a guest star on a show, my casting is the last piece of the puzzle. They've done everything else. The last thing they do is bring the actors in, and usually you have to start work the next day. That's how late they leave it to cast, because they think, oh, just, you know, anybody will do. And that's why you get such a lot of bad stuff, you know. But it's a trend, and hopefully it will change. I mean, I'm not talking about the actors who earn $20 million a movie. They should all be shot. No, because $20 million a movie, that means that a movie isn't going to get made. And their argument is that I'm worth $20 million because the movie's going to make that much money the first weekend. Hello? Last Samurai. You know, Mona Lisa Smile. Last Action Hero. We could go on and on and on, couldn't we? Yeah. So, and how much money do you need in one lifetime? That's the other thing, you know? Okay, don't get me started. Next question. Yes. I never wanted to direct. Never, no. In fact, I have written a letter to the Directors Guild telling them that they should pay me a stipend every year because I'm the only actor in Hollywood who doesn't want to direct. Yes. Thank you.
How did you get that role, and were you the victim of any of the famous practical joking that goes on that set?
Okay, Stargate episode. I get a call from my manager one evening, and he says, Marina, can you do a Russian accent? And I went, I don't know. And he goes, no, I have to know. Can you do a Russian accent? And I went, I suppose. Yeah, okay. I can do a Russian accent. Thinking, how hard can it be, you know? So he says, okay, you've got an audition for Stargate tomorrow. I'm like, oh, great. Please tell me it's not in the morning. And he's like, no, it's tomorrow afternoon. So the next morning, I call up my voice. I have a dialect coach. And I said, I need to come over and just do some Russian with you. And as luck would have it, the person ahead of me in seeing him was Russian. And he read my lines for me on a cassette recorder, and I could, and I had the Russian. So I went into the audition. Now, bearing in mind, I was playing a scientist. Well, the dialogue was all like technobabble. So I go in to the room, and of course they're running late, and there are like 20 girls in there. Actually, there were 19 women in there. I am the only non-Russian in the room. If they're not real Russians, they're of Russian descent. They're like Russian American. So I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. What the hell am I doing here with real Russians? Svetlanas and Natashas and all this stuff, So anyway, I go in to do the audition, and of course, because the technobabble, I'm like, got it down like that. And they're like, wow. And of course, everyone else must have been struggling with it, because it's not easy, So I leave, and I go home and think, I definitely didn't get this job because I'm not Russian. And I get a phone call. You got the job. I'm like, you're joking. He's like, no, you got the job. I'm like, wow, that's weird. So okay. So I go up to Vancouver to shoot Stargate. First day on the set, and I had to say Stargate a lot, right? It's part of my dialogue. The producer comes up, he goes, Marina, could you tone down the Russian? Because we can't understand what you're saying. We need you to sound more American. I went, all right. So I toned down the Russian. And this was the season that it was Michael Jenks' last season before he left and came back, right? And he was very unhappy to be on the show. And if you ever repeat this to him, I will come back and kill every single one of you. And he was really not happy to be there. And one day, we were in that little submarine thing, remember, the little sub? And he's like pissing and moaning. He's like, who do I have to get off of this show? And I went, Michael, honey, that's easy. The same person to get on it. Amanda Tapping fell off the chair. I was suddenly her best friend. They loved me at Stargate. In fact, Richard Dean, when I did the show, he had a family in those days, and he used to want to be finished. He was out of there by 6 o'clock every night to go spend time with he had a little daughter at that point. And so, because he's the star of the show and producing and everything, he can basically do what he wants. So he would be gone by 6, and he had a driver come get him. Well, one of the days that I was working, it was this first scene where you meet me, where I drive up in the Jeep to the airplane. It was going to be after 6 when they turned the camera around to shoot my stuff. So I was just expecting him not to be there to do my off-camera dialogue. I just thought they'd have someone standing in, doing his lines. And he stayed to do the dialogue. And I could see his driver kind of looking at his watch going, what the hell is he still doing here? Why hasn't he left? And I said to him, Richard, shouldn't your driver's like waiting for you? And he said, no, Marina, I'm going to stay and do your off-camera dialogue for you. He said, and he actually said, when we get an actress of your caliber on the show, I'm staying. Isn't that great? I was so happy. And then of course I kept messing up. I kept getting, I was so freaked out. I kept getting the lines wrong. I'm thinking I could see him changing his mind as I spoke, And then the airplane, okay. They have on Stargate someone from the Air Force there, right? Because they want to make sure everything is right and, you know, real. And because Stargate is set in the present time, they want to make sure that everything is kosher. So they give us these parachute packs that we got to jump out of the airplane with, okay? So we're jumping out of the airplane onto a pad, you know, landing, you know, you've got to like pretend that you're flying, jumping out. Well, you know, you don't have to do this just once. You have to do it maybe 10, 12 times. Which rocket scientist on that show decided that they didn't need to take the parachute out of the parachute pack? So you're carrying, how much do those things weigh, anyone in the military? 50 pounds, how much?
35 pounds.
How much?
35.
35 pounds. Landing on your back 12 times when you, because you know, when you jump out of an airplane, it doesn't land on you, does it? It goes up in the air. I could hardly walk the next day. I'm like, you idiots, like you couldn't have taken the parachute out and stuffed it with newspaper? Yeah, to anything, just like, you know, like I said, they're not all rocket scientists in the movie business. But yeah, it was really, really bad. But, and they kept saying to us, we had to keep doing it because I'm terrified of like jumping of heights, even, you know, like this high. Like, could you try and look like you're flying, Marina? Look, Richard Dean can do it. And like, first of all, he's a guy and he's done it before. And second of all, he's a guy and he's done it before, you know? So anyway, but I had a good time on Stargate, I must say. I'd love to do it again. You should also write letters and say, get Marina Sirtis back on the show, because it was a lot of fun. Okay, next question. Yes?
Your character in Star Trek evolved a lot from a very feminine role to a much more forceful character.
Uh-huh.
How much of that change was driven by you and how much was driven by the writers and directors?
Well, I think what happened was when I first got cast on Star Trek, like I said, we had 6 auditions over 6 weeks. And with every audition, you know you're getting closer and closer, you know, and this, bearing in mind that all I knew about Star Trek, I obviously knew about the original cast, but all I knew about this particular job was we were guaranteed 26 shows. That alone was going to be the best job I ever had. It's like the next 6 years were a bonus, you know what I mean? But that, God, guaranteed 26 shows. Why, goodness, I can get a new car. I was driving around, I bought a Chevy Chevette for $500 when I came to America. It didn't have a rear view mirror. I had to drive to Pep Boys and buy a rear view mirror and stick it on. And it was like the car of many colors. It was just, I think originally it was brown, but I'm guessing, right? So this is what I used to drive onto the Paramount lot in. Me and the limos, you know. It's like I lifted up the rugs, the car rugs, and I could see the pavement. I mean, it was, you know, it was like a Flintstones car. It was, anyway, so I was just so happy about this job. So it got to the point where the final audition is, you have to go to network, is what it's called. And basically, you're auditioning for all the studio bigwigs, and they decide whether they want you for the job. So the way things work in Hollywood is that before you go in for this final audition, you have to sign your contract. Because they don't want you to hold them up for more money when you get the job. They know that when you want the job, you'll sign anything, right? They're really smart. So my agent had called me and said, this is how much money you're getting. I mean, don't tell me. I don't want to know. And she was like, what do you mean you don't want to know? I said, I don't want to know. If I know how much money's involved, I can hardly speak right now. If I know how much money's on the line, I won't be able to get a word out. So she went, okay, fine, right. She said, I got you a really great deal. She lied. Anyway, so I'm waiting to go into my final audition, and it just worked out that way, but I was always in the same group as of Will Wheaton, Gates, and Denise. So I'm waiting outside, and the casting director comes up with my contract, and she goes, "You have to sign this before you go in." And I said, "I can't." So she went, "No, you don't understand. You can't go in unless you sign your contract." And I said, "No, Junie, I can't sign it." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I don't know what it says." So she looked at me like I just landed from the planet Zod. And she went, "What do you mean you don't know what it says?" I said, I don't know what, I can't, I'm too nervous. So she said, "Well, you have to sign it." So I said, "Well, could we cover it up and I'll just sign on the bottom?" Is there a big, thing on my head that says stupid? So we did. We covered up every page with a blank piece of paper, and I just signed. I could have been signing my life, which I was basically signing my life away. And I go in, I do the audition, petrified. If it was a musical, my knees would have been knocking in time to the music. I was so nervous. I couldn't speak. I got in there, did my dialogue, got out. Well, about a year later, I'm on a Star Trek cruise with Gene, and we're doing a panel together. And someone said to him, "Who has changed the most since you started?" And without blinking, he goes, "Oh, Marina. When we hired Marina, she was this little quiet little English girl, little wallflower." I'm like, is there another Marina? I had never been called quiet or a wallflower in my life. And I suddenly realized that they didn't know the real me. I was so nervous that they never saw this person. They saw that person, and they liked that person. If I hadn't been so nervous, I would never have got the job, because I was way too loud and obnoxious to be Troy. So what happened over the years, getting back to your question, was that as they got to know me, they're kind of by osmosis a little bit, more of Marina came into the character, especially by the movies, more of Marina came into the character, and Troy got a little more gutsy. Not quite as much as me. The only time, really, there are 2 times that my husband said when he watched it, first of all, in The Loss, when I lost my powers, and then in the drunk scene, in First Contact. Both times my husband said, when Troy's, lost her powers or when she's drunk, how come she becomes Marina? Well, when he'd regained consciousness, so I'm actually much nicer than I make out to be sometimes. Anyway, so that's what happened. Oh, actually, another thing about the auditions, I'll just throw in here quickly. When I was auditioning, I had to do every audition 3 times. I don't know, do you know this? Because they wanted me originally to play Tasha, and she was supposed to be from Eastern Europe. So I had to, when they switched me over to Troy and Denise over to Tasha, I don't think Denise had to do this, but because I was British, I had to do, every time I auditioned, I had to do all the dialogue in the British accent, in the Eastern European accent, and then in the really bad American accent, because I'd only been in the country for a few months and I didn't have it down. So when I got the job, they said to me, "Okay, you got the job, but you can't be British. Aside, because the captain's British. And he's far more important than you. And I didn't, because I was so grateful, obviously, to have the job, I didn't want to say to them, well, why the hell should I be British? Why the hell should I do an accent? He's supposed to be French. Hello? Except that, as a Brit, I'm so happy because according to Star Trek legend, by the 24th century, there are no more French-speaking people left in France. Which is not a bad thing, really. Because I could never figure out why we built that tunnel joining us to the French, because we hate each other, Now I know why, it's because we infiltrate and take over. Obviously, this is a story that I can't tell in Eastern Canada, but you know, over here it's fine. Yes, in the back.
Obviously, you're a very lovely lady, but my question is this: how did you feel about having to wear such an unflattering outfit in the first season of the show?
Okay, oh God, okay. Who has heard the costume story? Is everyone, no, hands up. Who's heard the costume story? Oh my God, not many. Okay, well, sorry. Take a toilet break. You have to go and hear it again. All right. There is a whole story about the costumes. Okay. When I got cast, I was a little chubbier than I am now. Probably about 15 pounds, okay? So I get cast. They say, you got the job, lose 5 pounds. So I tried. Well, when I went actually to get fitted into my costume, I was supposed to be wearing a spacesuit like everybody else, but to be honest, it didn't look good. I was just too lumpy in all the wrong places. When I gain weight, it's all concentrated in my body. It doesn't go to, look, skinny little legs, doesn't go to my legs at all. And so I look like a potato with matchsticks sticking out of it, you know. So they put me in the outfit. Oh my gosh, she looks terrible in that. Oh, we have a mini skirt. Let's put, her legs are okay. Let's put her in the micro mini skirt and maybe people will ignore the rest of her. So they put me in the thing, in the cosmic cheerleader outfit, right? Shedding here. With, I have to say, the only time ever on Star Trek, my real hair. That exploded Brillo pad on my head in Encounter at Farpoint is my real hair. This is my real hair ironed, okay? So anyway, at the end of Farpoint, they realized that my character doesn't suit the Wendy's waitress outfit. So, not that they have waitresses at Wendy's, I just made that up, you know. So they decide that they're going to put me in something more, you know, ladylike. So because I look terrible in the spacesuit because it's spandex and it stretches, they decide to make me my own spacesuit. What I call the ugly grey spacesuit. Do you remember that? Which had a belt, pink and green, exactly where my fat was. I used to watch the shows and think, why don't they just have arrows pointing to it? You know, this is where she's fat, right where the belt is. And of course, I got a cleavage. Now, sorry about this, but I'm going to have to talk about breasts again. When I was cast, if you remember back 16 years, remember in the first episode, I was doing all the translation from all the different, I was the, the translator from all the different alien languages. I was supposed to be the smart one. Step back in amazement, I know. She was supposed to have the equal intelligence of Spock. But there are certain rules in Hollywood. One of the rules is, you know, if you've got an action adventure show, you've got to have chicks on the show for the guys to look at when they're not blowing up spaceships. And the second rule is that if the chick has a brain, if she has a cleavage, she cannot have a brain. It's not an equation. Breasts equals brains. Think Pamela Anderson and you got it, right? So, who's actually quite a smart girl, but, you know, they don't let her be. Anyway, so I got the cleavage, grey matter disappeared. Suddenly became decorative, like, you know, a potted palm on the bridge sitting next to the captain. Just spritz her with some water every now and again, keep her fresh, you know. At the end of the first season, I was the only young woman left on the show. Gates was gone, Denise was gone. Suddenly, I had to be the chick on the show. I was never intended to be the chick on the show. Denise was the chick on the show. She had the bod and the butt and the whole thing going on, you know, and I didn't. I was, like I said, supposed to be the brain. So anyway, suddenly I have to be the chick. The chick has hair, long hair, you know, tighter costumes, and I was gradually, you know, losing weight over the years, working out more and all that stuff. So the theory was that if I didn't have, a spacesuit, then I would have more than one outfit to wear because I was in, civvies, and this was because I was a psychologist and people wanted to be at their ease when they came to see me. Made sense, fine, okay. Well, then we come to like the 6th season, and I've been wearing all these outfits, first of all, let's not forget the blue dress. I hated that damn dress. First of all, it was a leotard, actually. It was from the feet, a whole leotard all in one, with a skirt sewn on the top. So you actually had to get naked to go to the bathroom. Absurd, right, in the 24th century. And of course, as you all know, in the 24th century, we are all wrinkle-free. That's why we all do the Picard maneuver all together. Right? Now, this dress was it was like a cotton jersey, very, very fine, wrinkled like anything, So what they put me in underneath was a satin corset. Not because I needed to be skinnier, but because wrinkle-free, right? Had to, This corset, literally, it was old-fashioned, had whale bones in it, the whole thing. Knee in the back, Scarlett O'Hara, the whole thing. Which was actually, as a woman, it's a bit uncomfortable, but, you have to suffer to be beautiful. I didn't care, maybe look, hourglass, so it was fine. And also, as you know, boys and girls, I'm saying boys and girls because I've seen how some of you dress. When you wear a corset, it pushes everything up and down. So what was pushed down was enclosed in that big voluminous skirt, and what was pushed up was enclosed in what I have named, and don't believe anybody else, I named this, the Industrial Strength Starfleet Regulation Brassiere. It's a wonder of modern engineering, because it adds inches where there aren't as many. I mean, I used to take it off at night and go, oh my God, where'd they go? They were huge. And it was interesting because I started wearing that bra all the time. And then, we had guest stars come on the show, and they would see me as Marina in the morning coming in, and then they would see me 2 hours later as Troy, and they go, I want that bra. I want a bra just like that. And so now, every woman on Star Trek wears that bra. I mean, not the same bra, obviously we've got more than one, but, it's like become the Star Trek bra. And so there was that. Then we get to season 6. We get Captain Jellicoe, who says, Troy, put on a spacesuit. And who knew she had one in her closet all those years? There it is. She's got a spacesuit. She puts on the spacesuit. I loved my spacesuit. I could put my pips on, because people never remembered that I was a lieutenant commander, right? So I had my pips on. And suddenly, because my cleavage was covered up, my brains came flooding back. Overnight. It was like, remember how President Bush was stupid until 9/11 and suddenly he got smart? Overnight. That's what happened to Troy. Overnight. So anyway, I threw myself now with that. I just threw that, and that's new, isn't it, Dory, that President Bush thing? See, always something new. Anyway, yes, so, right. So I suddenly, not only am I, going on away teams, I am the leader of the away teams. I have a phaser, and I have a medical tricorder. And unlike Beverly, I seem to know what's wrong with people. And I have lines like, that's impossible. The Romulans use an artificial quantum singularity as their power source. And who am I saying that to? Geordie and Dana. Like they didn't know this. When we shot the scene, I was standing in between them. I had to quickly look on either side to make sure they hadn't developed a cleavage while I wasn't looking. have I been up here? Long time. Who's coming back tomorrow? Yay, okay, good. We'll talk some more tomorrow. So guys, thanks for coming out today. I really appreciate it. God bless.
All right, a little bit louder for Marina Sirtis, ladies and gentlemen.
We got an 80? 80, okay.
Any movement on $80?
100! Yay!
Thank you. Any movement on 100 going once? 110. Thank you. Any movement on 110?
I'm throwing in a signed picture of me in the sheet.
In the sheet.
110.
120. It's only worth $10 more. Maria in the sheet, $10 more.
What are we up to? 110? 120, sorry, 120. 120. 130. This is good from 65 when I came up here 2 seconds ago.
You know, I did this once with Ethan Phillips, and I got more money than him.
You did? I'm such a whore. Look at this. Okay, 130. 130?
130 going once?
140. Good Lord. You just wait till we just, you know. 150?
150? Fantastic.
I'm throwing in another.
He's throwing another picture.
150.
160.
Now this is for the end.
180.
180.
180 going once? Come on, Rich, you can do it.
You want to have the call for my wife?
Yeah. Okay, 180.
180 once, 180 twice. Sold for $180. Thank you very much for that.
Cowboy.
Isn't it rich?
Huh?
Yeah, he didn't say that.
What? Cowboy was closed.
You selling anything good, Rich?
Well, we got this stuff here, we got that stuff over there.
Spend all your money with my wife. Hey, sounds good.
No, I don't have to. Why is all the cool stuff over here at the side? It should be out front.
To the actual negotiations that are going on because they're different parts of the BBC, although I know the people who are doing it. And I'm being very careful not to be too inquisitive because, you know, if you are, they'll say, well, you know, why do you want to know?
Yeah.
And then if anything leaks out and you're one of the people and you didn't need to, then you become a suspect.
Yeah.
So in many ways, I'm just letting them get on with it.
Yeah.
But I would have thought, from my own legal background and commercial background, that the sensible thing for them to do would be to appoint BBC America to transmit it over here, because that's a good reason to get people to have to buy into BBC America. And the market practice does seem to be to release things on DVD at the same time as just after they've been being transmitted. So I would have thought that's the way they'll
But
probably go.
BBC America almost never does anything quick though. Like it seems like it's too.
It's like BBC Worldwide News.
Yeah.
It's a very small company.
If that's the case, then they'd be worried about people making copies and all the piracy and bootleg if they wait too long. And they
Exactly.
Don't even
I think that's why generally people put things out on DVD straight away.
Yeah.
That's why, like, I was joking around with Andrew yesterday and a couple days about the idea that, you know, that even though there's the word out that they want to try to get out before, right at the beginning of next year, that wouldn't surprise me that at Gallifrey, that all of a sudden you see somebody, like they have like a special screening of one of the episodes at the thing because somebody that knows the people at Gallifrey tape, you know, somebody from England videotapes it, and they bring it over and they just put it into a PAL converter, and all of a sudden you have a little special screening for everybody at Gallifrey.
Yeah.
You know, just to, you know, as a little hype.
Yeah, I mean, if it's gone out on terrestrial British television, I mean, it's very, very odd. The situation is becoming slightly reversed. When the Next Generation started over here, there was about a 2 or 3 year lag before they started to show it in England.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of the Doctor Who fans in England are Star Trek fans as well. They were mad keen to see it, so they'd have made friends because of international conventions with American people, and they were having people send videotapes over so they could watch it in England beforehand.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that if the show has actually been transmitted by the time Gallifrey happens next year, so it's actually gone out and somebody's recorded it, they will take the VHS over. Strictly, they ought to get permission to do that. But I mean, I think Sean is sufficiently switched on and has enough contacts with people on the production team that he will make sure it's okay to do it before we do it. But I think it's highly likely if it has been shown, they'll bring it out to Gallifrey.
I'm sure. Would people you know even worry about a handful of people? Would they not care that there's a 2-year wait, even if it means piracy for a few hundred people?
I would think the BBC want to jump on that faster just to make merchandising, obviously merchandising.
It's an industry-wide problem. I mean, we have an organisation in England called BAFTA, which is the equivalent of your Academy Awards sort of thing. But whereas the Academy Awards are strictly Hollywood and films, BAFTA deals with both film and television in England. And I've been a member for many years. And we were, until very recently, getting these screener DVDs of films that were coming out, whatever, and you may be aware that the Academy stopped it this year because they were so concerned about piracy.
Hello. Oh, thank you very much. Hi, gang. And thank you very much for Paul and United FanCon for inviting me back again. This is home. You know, I always said that this was the best convention I ever attended. Always, 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 always. I had it splashed all over my site. So I can't tell you how thrilled I am to be back home with my babies. Thank you. Can you hear me at the back? Okay. Now listen, who's heard me talk before? All right, quite a few of you. So you know I'm scared of a bit of a chat, don't you? No. You know that I'm a bit of a talkaholic. So half an hour is going to be hard pressed because those who've heard me speak already know that I answer one question in half an hour. So but I tend to talk my head off. John's laughing because he knows it's true. So how about we get straight into questions, because otherwise you know me, I'll just talk and talk and talk and talk. Hello, darling. Winnie! Hi, sweetheart. How's things? Thank you very much. I'm so thrilled to be back. I really am. This is the best con. It's very well run. It's very well organized, and they make you feel very good and happy and welcome, and it's good. Yes, darling. Oh boy, when was that? That was more than 2 years ago. It was 3 years ago, wasn't it? That was when I very first arrived in the United States. I got my work permit. I know that I was talking to, now was it Matt or Joe? Where's Joe? Joe, you asked me a question about coming to the United States, didn't you? Before. Do you want to come to the microphone? Because Winnie said, for those of you who can't hear at the back, Winnie said, can you tell me what your adventures are since I arrived in the States? And I remembered that Joe asked me a similar kind of question. So if it's okay with you, Winnie, and Joe, I'll answer 2 questions at once. And what was yours?
I had just asked what brought you to the United States.
No, the United States, right, yeah. So I'll answer both at the same time. At first, what brought me over here was this desire with the bottom of my heart to come over and further my natural therapies studies. And it's been burning inside me. Did anyone ever see that film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind? Yeah? Yeah? And those of you who have a burning ambition and drive to do something, isn't it kind of like the Richard Dreyfuss obsession? Like do you know how the character was? It's not exactly the same. I mean, I didn't dig my garden up with obsession, but you're digging the garden, your internal garden up, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Those of you who've seen that film, you have this burning obsession, this drive, something that's pulling you from your stomach. You know, and no matter what you're thinking with your head, your stomach is being pulled in one direction. And that, of course, is your instinct. You know, that's your instinct taking you somewhere. Your head's going, no, I'm not going to go there. But your stomach is your instinct. You know, the center of your being is pulling you. And I'd always had this, whether I liked it or not, this feeling of being at one with learning about the human body, the human psyche, the relationship between spirit and mind, body, spirit. Everything about the human construction and how we fit on this earth, how we fit with each other, and what relationship we have with the universal energy or God, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. And so even as far back as I can remember, truly, even at 5 years old, I had my own personal guardian angel that I spoke to, as we all did, you know. I mean, especially I come from a very religious family, so we were taught prayers when we were, even before we were walking, you know. So I got acquainted with guardian angels way back. But it was, I didn't ever have an obsession to, go and be a nun or join a convent, although I did have some visions and bits and pieces throughout my life, which I'm sure if I'd been born 500 years ago, I would have been either burnt at the stake as a witch, or I would have been sent to a convent to study religion for the rest of my life, you know. But because I come from a different era, I was able to just sift through the experiences that were happening to me and, find some sense eventually. But I started studying at a very early age. I was fascinated by, in the 60s, fascinated by meditation, by all things Eastern philosophies. Being the youngest of a family of 5 kids, I had all 4 other kids going through that whole 60s revolution, and we're all brought up devout Roman Catholics, and we all were fascinated by Eastern philosophies in the 60s, because that's what the 60s was all about. And yes, I am that old. I'm a bit of a freak, I must admit, because I know I don't look like an old bat, but yet I am an old bat, and loving it. So there you go. What's that? I'm a crone, and I'm damn proud of it, yeah. Is that the equivalent of an old bat, is it, a crone? Yeah. That's a more positive. Oh, well, we Australians, we make fun of ourselves. Now, are you getting the sense, those of you who haven't heard me talk, are you getting the sense that I'm going to take half an hour to answer one question? Yes? Because I know myself. I'll get to yours in a minute. There's no such thing with me of answering a question quickly. I always have to give you the whole story, But the question that Winnie and Joe asked, they're very, very, very important questions. And I feel it's my duty to give you the correct answer. But I'll try and make it short, because to give you my whole life story in 15 minutes is going to be impossible. So I started meditating, and I used to have these amazing visions in meditation. And I used to see the Da Vinci man in the circle. What's the classical name that begins with a V? Does anyone know? Anyone studied medicine here? What? I can't hear. Anyway, you know the symbol, don't you? Yeah. And I got I started to see this symbol a lot in my meditations, and I took it to mean that, I was drawn to study medicine. But yet I didn't really want to study modern medicine. I wanted to study traditional medicine, so I started studying naturopathy, homeopathy, and herbal medicine. At that time, that was 1990, there was a huge revolution all over the world. Environmental issues were being addressed. People were changing the way they eat, the way they saw their health. Really massive revolution. And it was coming from California, most of it. This revolution that was building, and I think it started in the 60s, didn't it, with that sort of Haight-Ashbury movement, and went from there. And it turned into not just, a whole load of hippies, but it turned into people being very seriously responsible about their children's health and their own health and spiritual health. Anyway, so I thought, I have to live in the United States of America if I want to pursue this pull that's pulling me to learn about the human body, mind, and spirit. Why did it want me to learn about the human mind, body, and spirit? I don't know. And I didn't know then, but I'm starting to learn now, because I didn't know I'd be talking to bunches of people, when I was a kid. You don't know these things. You just know what your pull is, what your drive is. And, of course, as you know, I've been acting for 1,000 years. I won't even get into how that all started, because that's another question. Oh, maybe tomorrow we'll address that. So first thing, what brought me to the United States was this burning passion that started me thinking very seriously about living in the United States in 1990. So I wanted to pursue my studies in natural and alternative medicines and spirituality, Reiki, and all these other healing modalities, number one. Number two, after Zen was brought into my life, I believe it was destiny for me to play a priest, because I had a lifetime devoted to learning about spiritual psychology, I guess. And also I had, as you know, a fascination for medicine, for science, for humanity. And so it was amazing. This character was brought into my life, and I was able to put all of the things that I love and all the things that have been driving me and propelling me personally in Virginia's life, I was able to put them all into Zan and really make her live as she was a living obsession of mine. Does that make sense? She became all the things that I was drawn to be. But she was also wrapped up in a science fiction character that was, designed to be entertaining, of course. But the essence of her was really what was my burning desire to learn more about. So I also, in the process of becoming Zan, I learned for the first time in my life really how to act. And before that, I'd been a model and really an actress that was just a visual actress. I guess I was an attractive person who was put into roles because I was an attractive person, certainly not because I was any great actor. I could act, of course, otherwise I wouldn't have got any jobs if I couldn't, but I wasn't a good actor. I was an okay actor. I could get by. But with Zan, playing an extremely complicated character, very, very deep and multifaceted, extraordinarily hard to play, I had to learn. It was sink or swim or sink, I had to learn how to act pretty quick smart, and I had some lessons by, amazing teacher. So at the end of, or towards the end of my stint in Farscape, which was cut short because the character made me extremely ill because of the makeup poisoning my liver, my kidneys. So I had to leave, health reasons. But towards the end of my stay in Farscape, I was nominated a couple of times, and I thought, oh, wow, maybe I can do this. And I had thousands and thousands and thousands of letters from people saying, we really enjoy your work. I thought, maybe this is the time in my life I can go over to the United States of America, where all the big guys play, and maybe I can work over there as an actor. So those two things brought me to America. Since I've been here, I've realized that the second option is not going to work for me. Acting is not going to work. Isn't that funny? But, you know, I believe that destiny takes you places that you intellectualize about where you want to go, right? All of us. But what we're really, if you're really in touch with your guts, we call it, your destiny, the thing that drives you to move on, that will lead you to where you're supposed to be. Now, I could force the fact and I could start acting over here. You're all sitting there going, huh? What do you mean you can't act? She's just kind of flown over that one. But the reason why I can't act in the United States is because you all know me, right? In the sci-fi world, it's great. You know, I'm very, very well known, and people appreciate my work, which is wonderful. But the casting directors in the United States don't watch sci-fi. They don't watch sci-fi. They consider science fiction to be kind of sort of lesser than, you know. That's why it's very rarely in the Emmys, it's very rarely awarded. For some reason, I think that will change, but just for the time being, it's considered to sort of be poo-pooed, if you know what I mean. That's why you never see it nominated. And so any sci-fi actors, in particular actors who are in prosthetic, are really just not taken any notice of. So I could act in this country, but I would have to start from the very bottom. Now, you know, I've been lying about my age for a million years and telling everyone I'm 37. And on my site, it's so funny. I think I've taken it down now, but I put 37 forever. And it's been there for years, 37. And people honestly still think I'm 37. It's like, oh, okay, fine. Well, if you can't see that I'm lying, then it works for us. It works for you. Yeah, okay, I'm 37. But I'm not really. I'm way older than that. So what happens in the States is, in the acting world, yes, I could start again, but I'd literally have to start from bottom. I'd have to wash dishes, or something like that, you know. I'd have to find a job that would be flexible enough for me to try and work and earn a living and go off on go-sees and knock on doors. I'd have to start doing maybe some student films, which I like to do anyway. I always do them no matter what. But I'd have to really go full into it. Do student films, start to do little plays, maybe get a modeling agency and do some, you know, which is not a bad idea, some work on TV. It takes around about approximately, it can take quicker than this, but approximately about 10 years. Now, don't all get a shock because I'm proud of my age. I'm 51. That means I'm going to be 61, right? 60, you know, it's like, I can't, there's a certain time, especially for females, where I know I look fine. Oh, actually, it's funny, in America that means something else, doesn't it? That means fine. Doesn't it? No, but I mean fine as in, I know I'm not a stupid woman. I know, you know, obviously I know I'm not an ugly old rat bag. But the thing is that if you look at the industry, the movie, the television and film industry, it's all about putting bums on seats, and it's all about fitting into a pigeonhole. I'm a bit of a freak in a way. Thanks, darling. Oh, love my Sprite. Oh, love you. Thank you. And it's about casting directors, once they eventually would get to know me, which would take probably, you know, somewhere around 10 years, might be quicker, could be 5 years, but you never know. They then have to try and figure out what to do with you. And because I'm youthful, I look too old to play the young roles and too young to play the old roles. So to really get into this industry properly, you know, and give myself a proper chance as a complete unknown in this country, I'd probably have to cut my hair off, dye it grey, even though I'm not naturally grey. I'd have to make a real effort to look a lot older than I do in order to get character roles, because I don't fit, you know. I look young, but I'm not young, you know. So they wouldn't know what to do with me. Am I making any sense at all? And also, those of you who are actors here in the room, anyone? Oh, that's why you're nodding your head. I noticed this young lady's going, yeah, I can. you know, you all hear, you've all heard in the press about this scenario of there aren't very many roles written for older women. There are some roles, some good roles written for older women, but they're older women who are character older women. And they're very few and far between, but they do exist. There are lots of roles now, thank God, you know, first time ever in history where, you know, the woman in her mid-30s is now able to work. And you've got a lot of actresses, only because, you know, most of the famous actresses now are in their late 30s or in their mid-40s. But it's okay if you're already well known and you're older, you can still keep working. But if you're unknown and you come to this country and you're older, even getting an agent is difficult because they just see it in a matter of dollars and cents. So how much money can I make from this person? If you're older, they think for some reason that maybe in 1 year I'm suddenly going to degenerate and collapse into a little old lady, you know. It's like, no, I've got this sort of Finnish blood. I'm going to be young forever, you know, like my mother and father. But I know I'm going on and on and on, but I can talk more about it tomorrow in our session. But basically, it's going to take too long and too hard, and I don't have the money. You can do what other actors from other countries from all over the world do. The other alternative is to hire a publicist. But that costs, you know, like between $1,500 and $2,000 a month just to hire a publicist who then makes you acquainted with the casting agents by putting you in the weekly glossy magazines and making sure that you're seen on E! Entertainment and all that sort of stuff. That's the other way to do it, but who's got the money? So basically I'm over here doing, isn't it funny, doing this, what pulled me in the first place. Isn't that weird? It's like now I can see the picture. I was pulled into learning about meditation when I was very, very young, meditation and health and psychology of the mind, body, and spirit. Then I got led into acting. Acting brought me to Zan. Zan brought me to here. Suddenly I'm here, bang, and I'm back to the meditation and the... By the way, I've got a meditation class, and this is a good kind of segue into this. I said to myself, I've got to start trying to talk about the classes, because I always forget. I'm not very good at, you know, about promoting the things that I'm doing. I've got a class, if anyone would like to attend. It's tomorrow between 4 and 7, and they're really gorgeous. Come to my table later and I'll tell you more about it. Darling.
I came in late, so I apologize if this has already been asked. But
that's all right.
Have you been, are you at all involved in the Farscape wrap-up that was filming earlier this last year?
We did. We had the Farscape convention in November at Burbank, and we were all surprised to actually see the official Jim Henson Company lawyers there. And we thought, oh, I wonder what the lawyers are there for. Maybe they're going to make some kind of announcement. But oh no, the lawyers came to speak to me and also to speak to the other cast members to make us very acutely aware of the fact that we cannot breathe a word about anything to do with the miniseries that may or may not be, that is allegedly or has allegedly been filmed in Australia. They know that I love to chat, and they know that that I live in the United States and I'm touring all the time talking, so it was really a gag for me, you know. And instead of getting the phone call of, what are you doing? You can't talk about these things. Why do you think we've got writing teams that we pay millions of dollars? You know, you blow it all, you blow the suspense by telling everybody everything. But so I've been gagged. You know, I know nothing is my official answer to that. So you just have to wait. For the first time ever, I'm not blabbing. And you know me, I always blab. I do. I'm famous for it. But I just can't. For this time, you just have to let the writers take you, or to let the whole organization take you through the suspense. So, yeah, there's just one more, this guy here. Yeah.
Do you ever communicate with Mel Gibson, your co-star in Road Warrior?
Oh, I wish.
And maybe he could help your career. He's become quite influential lately.
Yes, yes, particularly influential. No, I did think of that, and he very kindly wrote a letter to the United States government on my behalf, and that was one of the reasons why I got what's called, which is so funny, Alien of Extraordinary Ability visa. But isn't that funny? No, and that's the real name. Isn't that great? That's the real name of the visa, alien of and I laughed myself stupid when I got the document from the United States government, and it said, I got it in the mail, and I opened it up. I thought, what's this? And I opened it up because my immigration lawyer and myself spent, oh boy, about 4 months compiling letters, because the immigration lawyer didn't ever tell me the name of the visa. He just told me it was I think it was an O, I think. I'm not sure if it's O, but he just said, listen, here are your options, and this visa, and he told me the options, and he said, oh, there's this visa that you could be eligible for, but you have to prove to the government that you're highly recognisable in Australia and that you're in the top echelon in your field. But you have to have been, or something like, nominated for awards, and you have to prove that the press know you and the general public know you, blah, blah, blah. So we got letters from producers that I'd worked with, from other actors that I'd worked with. We collected examples of my press and certificates that I'd been awarded by charitable organisations and all this stuff. It was this big, the file, like a phone book. And right at the top was Mel Gibson's letter. And the immigration lawyer said, you know what? They'll get as far as the letter, they'll get their big fat stamp out, and they'll go, approved. Boom! Because they figure that, I suppose, if you have a letter from Mel, then obviously you're recognised in the industry. So he was very sweet to do that for me. But you know what? And I have written a couple of times in the last year to his assistant, just saying, oh, hi, tell Mel, thank you very much. And I sent him a little thank you gift. And, tell him, here's my bio. Hint, hint. And, I would love the opportunity to work with Mel at some stage, and please pass him my heartfelt gratitude and that I'd love to work with him. So he knows I'm here, and, I'm sure he would have thought of it by now. But maybe it's not going to happen. I don't know how much time I've got left. I'll just keep on going until they come and take me off, shall I? Yeah. Because I love a chat. Yes, darling? Oh, will you go to the microphone, hun? Would you mind? Because we've got friends at the back who can't hear. Give me a chance to open my drink. Well, I've only got one hand.
Hi.
Thank you, John. Hi, darling.
The blue makeup that you were allergic to before.
Oh, it's not an allergic reaction, but I'll tell you that. Thanks.
Have they figured out a way to fix it so that you can be your character and wear that makeup?
I thought you said so you can pee. I thought, so you can pee your character, and I thought, oh, what?
No, be
your character. Yes. Well, that's a good question. Yes and no, and yes and no, and yes and no, and yes and no. And when am I getting kicked off? Now? Okay, I've got to go now. So to be continued. But there's nothing really they can do. It's just the nature of, covering the skin. Any medical people in here? Anyone who understands physiology, anatomy? Well, the lymphatic system, the skin is one of the largest alimentary organs of the entire body. It is an organ. It's not just something for decoration. It is an organ, and it breathes and functions and eliminates. And if you cover it with liquid plastic or anything to the extent where it can't breathe at all, you're putting pressure on the kidneys, are you not? So that's fine if you're in a film and you're wearing prosthetic makeup for short periods of time, as all of us know who are in the industry. But if you're going to be covering yourself for years, you're going to be asking your kidneys a little bit too much. So my kidneys were bleeding, poor little buggers, for a long time. But the only way they can fix that problem is to not put the makeup on. And yes, I have said, can you morph Zan into maybe a Sebastian or something, but I got no answer. So I think my answer was, and on that rude note, no, of course they always want me to do more, and I'm constantly having to think about my health issues, so, but we can talk more about that at my table. Please feel free to come and see me anytime you like. I'll be at your disposal for the next 2 days. Don't forget, you've got your free autograph session with me tonight at 5, and you've got a photo session at 12. as well, if you want to come and have your picture taken with me, and I'll give you a hug. Pass you back to Paul. Thanks, guys. I'll see you later. Thank you.
One more time for the lovely Virginia Hay, ladies and gentlemen. Virginia Hay. Well, I know this is supposed to be the Women of Science Fiction weekend, okay? But we thought we'd spice things up a little bit. And we have all these great heroines, all these good people. So, you know, just to mix it up a bit, we want to get you somebody really, really bad. Really, really bad. So we decided, who is nastier, meaner than the creator of the Daleks from Doctor Who? So if I could get your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for Davros himself, Mr. Terry Molloy.
Excellent. Welcome, Earthlings. I see there are enough of you here to produce new genetic material for my Daleks.
Hello, Boston. Thank you for inviting me. It's really great to be here. I mean, it's fantastic. My first time in the States, my first time in Boston, first time at a sci-fi convention over here, and I'm really enjoying myself. I'm going to tell you a little about what I've been up to with Davros and the Daleks and what is coming up in the future, which is rather exciting too. But I have to apologize first of all, because Bob has pointed out to me that I got the dress code completely wrong and the pajama party's tonight. But hey, you know, I'm British, what do I know? I've been doing the odd convention in the UK over the last few years, but for many years I kind of like disappeared from the scene. People didn't realize I was about, and I think it was because they lost my address or something or other. So it was only like about 5 years ago somebody discovered me and said, well, don't you do conventions? And I said, well, yeah, but nobody ever asks me. And they said, oh, well, that's probably because you don't know where you are. So I started to do some more conventions. But I came into Doctor Who. I mean, obviously, I watched Doctor Who as a younger man. My doctor was sort of Hartnell and Troughton. I think we all have our own doctors, don't we? Yeah. You grow up with your doctor, and I mean, the great thing that's happening now is that people are saying, well, my kids never had a doctor to grow up with. Well, that thankfully is going to be remedied in the next year. Yeah. It's cool. It's really good. Who will return? Yeah, and I hope I will probably be returning at some point with them as well. I guess I'm the only one who could return because actually this is the mask. If I take this off, you really, really get scared. But now I came into Doctor Who in a way by accident, because Michael Wisher, those of you who've followed the episodes and everything, created Davros as a character in Genesis. He was then taken over by Dave Goodison, and in about 1981-82, I was working on a series called Radio Phoenix down on the south coast, which was about a commercial radio station. And I was playing this total tosser of a disc jockey who was, sort of a bit smashy and nicey and, it's absolutely fantastic, mates, great stuff, and there he goes. And doing all these silly voices. But the director of that was a guy called Matthew Robinson. And Matthew rang me up a few months after we finished the series and said, do you watch Doctor Who at all? I said, well, yeah, I used to. He said, do you know the Daleks? I said, yeah, absolutely, everyone knows the Daleks. He said, do you know Davros? I said, well, vaguely, yes, I remember Davros vaguely. He said, well, would you come down and see me, and I want to run you some tapes, and have a look at these tapes and see if you think you could do this character because we want to bring him back. So I went down and had a look at them and said, yeah, well, hey, you find me an actor that's going to say, no, I couldn't possibly do that, but because I did a lot of work in radio and I do a lot of impersonations and things like that for commercial voiceovers and what have you, I thought this is going to be a challenge, because it'd be like doing television on radio on television, because you'll be behind a mask, and working with a mask was something that fascinated me. So I said, yeah. So we went for it, and the first one I did was Resurrection of the Daleks with Peter Davidson. And then, obviously, they liked what they saw, so they came back to me again to do Revelation and finally Remembrance until the series came to a close shortly after that. But it was a fascinating time because I wasn't aware of the impact that Doctor Who had on the watching public, you know. And it's only much later that I realized how that has grabbed people's attention. I mean, to me, it was a job, you know, and I just went in and did the job and went away and thought, oh, well, that's it, you know, on to the next one. But suddenly, we're getting all these, you know, they're coming back again, and then conventions, and it's going on, and doing audio CDs, and it's great because it's become part of my life, and it makes you like part of a family. I have the other advantage that I also work on a soap opera in the UK on radio, and it's a soap opera called The Archers. And The Archers is an everyday story of country folk. And The Archers is, in fact, the longest running soap opera in the world. It has been running since 1951. Every day, it goes out quarter of an hour every day since 1951, and an hour on Sundays. And I've been a member of that cast now for well over 30 years. I mean, I've sort of grown up with it, man and boy. And I play this character called Mike Tucker, who's like the milkman from hell. And like Davros, he's only got one eye. I mean, I guess I can tend to play a lot of people with just one eye. There's something, must be something about me, the way people see me when they cast. But that's been interesting because we have a lot of interaction with our fans. And The Archers, as I say, goes out on BBC Radio 4. It has a listening audience of over 10 million a week, which is higher than some television shows get in the UK. And it always has had a very high listening public. So I'm aware of the convention things, and we interact a lot with our fans. We enjoy doing that. We set up a company and we go out and we do conventions, we do cruises and stuff like that. And I love going out and meeting the people who enjoy the program. And it's the same with the Doctor Who ones, you know, because actually you know a lot more about the program than I do. I mean, I went in and did it a few times, and as Davros, and also came in as a real person in Attack of the Cybermen as Russell. But to me, there was a little jobs along the way. But you know a lot more about it, and it's great to get people's feedback on what makes them enjoy the program that they watch. I do a lot of other stuff as well. I work in theatre, I work in radio, and I do a lot of telly bits and pieces as well. And I live on the east coast of England, in Norfolk, for those of you who know, which is very close to this area, really. I mean, we've got Boston Links is only just up the road from us. And, you know, Norfolk is, you've got Norfolk close by here. And so it's a similar sort of area. I mean, I live very close to the beach. I can get out to the beach and everything. It's a very quiet area. It's a very rural area. And Norwich is a very medieval town. It's a very small, compact medieval town. And the pace of life is a little slower than it is anywhere else in the country. Because Norfolk is a place that nobody goes through. You're not on your way to anywhere else. You go through Norfolk, you end up in the sea. It's as simple as that, you know. So people, it's a slightly cooler pace of life, and people enjoy it. But working on Doctor Who was great fun for me. It was also probably the most painful job I think I've ever experienced, physically. It was, because when I came into it, they decided that they were going to create a new mask for Davros. So I had to go along to the special effects, BBC Special Effects in Acton. And they did a head mold. And those of you who know anything about head molding, it's a pretty horrific business. Because first of all, what they do is they put a skull cap on, and they're doing a complete head mold. They get a couple of straws up your nose and cover the entire of your head with alginate, which is the sort of stuff that dentists use to take impressions for teeth, because it's very high resolution, but it does tend to decay very quickly. So they then have to slap plaster of Paris on top of the alginate and let it go off and set. So you're sitting in this chair, you know, and they put this stuff on, you know, and you sit there with these straws up your nose and your whole head is encased in this stuff. And as it goes off, the plaster of Paris gets heavier and heavier and heavier
and heavier, and your spine is compressing down. You think you're going to die. But then they just sort of crack you over the back of the head with a hammer and split it open and make the mold, make the mask. And they created a good mask. The trouble when we first started doing them, I mean, the prosthetics nowadays are so much more advanced than when we did it, because it was a basic latex mask, and there wasn't much movement in it at all. So you had to work really hard behind the mask in order to get any kind of movement from it. Now, my brief when I came into the program was to essentially recreate what Michael Wisher had started and carry it forward. Because obviously wasn't going to do just an exact copy of what Michael Wisher had done, because every actor brings their own feeling for a part to it and tries to take it on another stage, which is what we did over the 3 Davroses that I did. And but I had this chariot. I inherited the chariot, and I was talking to somebody earlier, and they're saying, well, what did you do with your other hand? Was that to control the chariot? I said, come on, you talk about the BBC here. The chariot was made out of 2x4 timber with 2 12-volt car batteries in the back and a hole in the floor, and I dragged it around with my toes. Now, if you've ever had that problem with trying to shift a supermarket trolley around with one wonky wheel, gives you an idea of what it's like, but all you've got is your toes to control it. You're meant to be going straight, the damn thing wants to go over there, so you're spending all your time going like this in order to go that way. It's a killer. It was so, and I'm bolted into it as well. So once I'm in there, the mask is on, it's a full mask. They have to make up my lips and my teeth, black out my teeth, and then I have to swallow this ghastly, or rinse out with this ghastly food dye to make my tongue black. Make up my eyes behind the slits in the eyes so I can see but not be seen in. Then I'm in this leather tunic and the hand goes on, and then I'm bolted into this thing, and that's it, and I'm there. And they work fast, you know, on a lot of these shows. They work fast in terms of shooting, but they sometimes work so fast they forget what they're doing. So they'll finish the scene, so right, okay, on to the next one, and I'm still sat in the chariot and saying, hey, I'd really kind of like to go to the loo now. Hello, anyone there? You know, and they're all off the other side of the studio doing something else. So it was painful, but perhaps not as painful as when I did Revelation, because those of you who've seen Revelation, you have that first section where Davros is just the head in this fish tank that revolves around. Great idea. And they built this thing very carefully with massive steel girders and set it up so it looks as though there was nothing underneath, and I was actually in the center of this on a swivel chair so I could swing around so that the head just moved wherever I went. Of course, they hadn't bothered to check my dimensions before they built this thing, so when they got me into the chair and I swiveled round, I took my kneecaps off nearly on these uprights. So they thought, shoot, there's no way we can rebuild this now, we're going to have to work around it. So what they did basically was they put me on this swivel chair and very kindly tied my legs up underneath the back and kept them there so I could swivel round on my hands. But the problem with that is that within about sort of 4 or 5 minutes, gangrene's starting to set into your legs. But Graham Harper, who was the director, realized what was going on here, and we shot all the scenes in that fish tank in 40 minutes. We did them bang, 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 to get me in and out to do it. So it was a very fast turnaround on that. We just went one after the other, one after the other. And thankfully, all of them were just sort of little quick shots. But and then I got out of the fish tank and I was back in the chariot again. Now, the problem with Doctor Who and the Daleks, as a lot of you are aware of, and Tom Baker made a big thing of the fact that to get away from Daleks, all you have to do is climb a ladder. And for a long time, the credibility of the Daleks as a fighting force was blown by the fact that to escape from Daleks, you climb stairs. Well, in Revelation, we solved that because there was that point when Davros reappears and confronts Orsini and blasts him from the top of the stairs. But he had to get down in order to really finish him off. And Graham said, well, we've got to find some way, we're going to have to cut round here and see you coming down this ramp or something or other. I said, why? For heaven's sake, I mean, he's a scientist, he's brilliant. He'll have worked out how to hover by now.
And Graham just said, yeah, great, fantastic. Okay, shoot you against blue, we'll do this, that. And suddenly, Davros was hovering. So if Davros could hover, the Daleks could hover. So in that episode, we see the Daleks beginning to hover. And in remembrance, they come up the stairs after the Doctor. So that was a turning point. It was a pure technical necessity that made us make sure that Davros and the Daleks could actually hover and move wherever they wanted to do. So it cured a problem that had been there for a long, long time. I mean, it's interesting how these things just sort of come out in the actual making of the thing. They forget about them until they actually get down to the physicality of what has to happen on the floor. But we had a great time making that. I had a great fun with Peter on Resurrection, and Colin and I get on like a house on fire. We got very silly. We were great silly children a lot of the time, and JNT had to come and slap our wrists many times because we just used to get into giggles and jokes and do all sorts of things on the set, which they didn't go down too well and had to be cut eventually. But we had great fun. And then I moved on to do the one with Sylvester. Now, Sylvester I actually worked with before in theatre. We'd worked together in theatre when he did Campbell's Roadshow and stuff like that. And he's a great spoons player, and he actually taught me to play the spoons, and I still play the spoons occasionally. But I'm not going to tonight, don't worry. I shall probably wear the pyjamas. We had a lot of fun doing that, but I very nearly didn't do the last Davros because I was actually working on another show at the time when they wanted me, and there was a clash between the location shooting dates I was doing on the other shoot and the rehearsal dates of the Doctor Who. And it was only because the two producers, JNT and the producer of the ITV show I was working on, came to an arrangement that I worked in the morning for the BBC, in the afternoon for Central, that we actually worked this out. But it meant that, those of you remember in Remembrance of the Daleks, there's this battle computer. And it's got a voice very similar to Davros. So everyone has to think it's Davros, but in fact it's the little girl. Now, I was meant to be doing that voice, but I didn't. They actually got John Leeson in, who does K9, to do that, because I could only actually get into the studio for one day to do all the actual bits in what I call the barbecue, the flip-top lid that the Emperor Dalek's got, you know. And that was another one of those wonderful technical moments. Now, those of you who are very, very keen-eyed, if you watch that episode, there's a point when the Emperor Dalek's there, and it's got this sort of light, which is his eye, which moves across, okay? Now, if you look very carefully, there's a point just before the lid goes up where that light disappears. Now, this is because when I got in there, they said, oh, we need a light for the eye. Oh, we haven't sorted that out. Right. Well, Terry, here's a torch. Can you wave it in front of this thing while you're speaking? And then, just before you flip the lid, pull it away. So you've got me waving this thing inside the thing, then dumping the torch and flipping the lid up to show Davros. Again, another, brilliant piece of technical innovation that the BBC came up with just at the last minute. So, great fun. Great fun. So, I mean, since then, Doctor Who's become, a big part of my life. Recently, last year, I did a Big Finish audio CD, a double CD with Colin Baker and Wendy Padbury and Bernard Horsfall called Davros. It's cool. Those of you who haven't got it, I brought it with me, so you can get it off me later. But that was great, and we're doing another one. Next month, we actually go into studio, and we're doing Colin, Bonnie Langford, and I are doing another Davros with the Daleks this time, and that's going to be called Juggernauts. So that will be coming out later in the year, I guess. But anyway, I'm going to throw it open to the floor because I could just rattle on forever, and I'm sure you might have some questions. You might not. You might just want me to rattle on. But if anybody's got any questions, I'll be very happy to take them. Yeah. My favourite venue for working in? My favourite media is radio, actually. It's for several reasons. A, I've done a lot of it. B, as an actor, it's the most interesting way of working because it doesn't matter what the hell you look like. I can still play a 16-year-old punk or a 90-year-old West Indian on radio because vocally I can do that. So it doesn't matter. I can play parts I'd never be ever be cast on stage or theatre or film because you create the character with your voice.
There's an immediacy to that, and you're actually having to do, you can't rely on what you look like, you can't rely on gestures, you've got to create all of that, you've got to paint the pictures and create that image in people's minds. It was great, I mean, well, typical of the BBC that a few years ago, somebody wanted to do some science fiction on radio, and one of the controllers of radio said, oh, that's nonsense, science fiction doesn't work on radio. He went, what? Hello? Does anybody remember Journey into Space in the 50s? I mean, that was like the beginning of it all, and then Hitchhiker's Guide. It's the one thing that does work on radio. Absolutely, completely and utterly. Because you make up the sets. You know, you don't have to spend vast millions on sets and special effects. It's all in your head, you know. I remember Journey into Space when I was growing up as a kid. It used to frighten the willies out of me. It really did. I mean, I was doing the hiding behind the sofa that I think most people have had to put up with the Daleks. But yeah, radio is certainly my favorite. I do enjoy the others, and it's the one that I think the actor's got the most control over as well, because it is just you and the microphone and the voice at the other end. Television, you're in the hands of camera shots and cuts, and the focus can go. You can be delivering something you think is really great. When you come to see it on screen, they've reversed the shot and it's on somebody else, you know. So, but on radio, there's not much they can do but use your voice and the way it works. I did a little bit of animated stuff, yes, in the UK. The fascinating thing I find about animated stuff, and those of people who do a lot of it, and I learned this from somebody, is that animated characters don't breathe. Have you noticed? Animated characters don't actually breathe. They don't take breaths. So it's a lot more difficult doing an animated thing because you can't actually have that in the middle of a sentence. You've got to deliver a sentence with no breath, or no sound of breath, or an intake of breath. So it can be a lot more. It's been mainly animated stuff for small, you know, corporate projects and things like that. I've not done a full-blown thing, but I'd love to take on a good animated project. Yeah. Any more questions? Cruise experience? Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we've done. I mean, I know there are sci-fi cruises and stuff like that. But we've also, the Archers, we do cruises because we do conventions. And as one of the people who organises Archers Addicts, which is the fan club run by the cast for the fans of the Archers, we put together conventions and we do cruises. I was in a Caribbean cruise in the autumn around the Caribbean with people on board, you know, who are into the Archers. And come June, I'm off to the Baltic for 2 weeks. Cruising around there with some more Archers fans as well. And they're great fun because it is this interaction that we get on a one-to-one basis with people, you know, all the time, not just in big halls like this, but actually you can actually get around a table and chat with people, have dinner with them, have a drink with them. We really enjoy that and love it. And we did do a convention. I organised a convention, and I have great sympathies with Paul here because in 2001, it was the 50th anniversary of the Archers, and we produced a convention at the National Indoor Arena, which is a place that seats some 20,000 people, and we did a convention for some 4,500 Archers fans and had 48 members of the cast of 60 at this event with a full-blown evening show, and it was a great experience, but it's one I didn't want to repeat too quickly after that. But anyway, I think I have to go now. So I'm going to be out there signing from 1 o'clock, and then I'll be on the autograph table later. If you want to come see me, have a chat, great. I've got some new Davros prints, the Big Finish CD if you haven't got it already. So I'd love to see you, and we'll talk later. Thank you for having me, Boston. Thank you. Bye.
One more time, ladies and gentlemen, first to Terry Molloy.